Welcome to Brainstoryum. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dream punk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 55 of Brainstoryum. Spring is here. You'd almost believe it's summer here in the UK. But I like to think that no matter where you are, or what time it is, or what time of year, there is always the opportunity for ideas to blossom. Think of your imagination as a garden. You could just leave it and let it fill up with weeds. Or you can tend it, dig deep to turn over fresh soil, find things you didn't know were buried there, and plant the seeds of the most exciting ideas that could grow into the most spectacular stories. So let's hold up our proverbial trowels, a pen will do, and get digging. Before we begin with some new story brainstorms, I have some ideas to share with you from listeners who brainstormed a phrase from the last show. And I have some news about an author who's written and published a short story inspired by one of the exquisite corpses that have come up on the show. Nick Vracar, whose name you might recognise, because he's been suggesting story ideas regularly in response to the prompts in the show. If you overlook the fact that I've been kind of mispronouncing his name, so sorry about that. Nick has written a story based on the meandering warlock attended the theatre with the poisonous sludge, which came up in episode 51 of Brainstoryum. But Nick hasn't just written it, he's posted a video of himself reading it, which you can find at nvracar.wordpress.com. So it's nvracar.wordpress.com, but the link is in the show description. The story is called Claire and Bethany Go to the Theatre. Do check it out. I really enjoyed this, and I am thrilled that I inspired a fellow author with a crazy writing prompt. The story is called Claire and Bethany Go to the Theatre. Do check it out. I really enjoyed this, and I am thrilled that I inspired a fellow author with a crazy writing prompt. Now, in the last show, the random words combination that I suggested for your feedback was the myopic or short-sighted gorgon. And as usual, I was surprised and filled with wonder at the sheer breadth, depth and variety of ideas that my lovely listeners came back with. Nick Vracar said, "A bar in the centre of a haunted park was just the latest in a series of business blunders for the myopic gorgon. Not as bad as the reptile care salon. But it would stay open as long as the city inspectors and bankers couldn't find it." This is a really interesting idea that the gorgon creates a place that officials struggle to see as well, as if her own short-sightedness triggers short-sightedness in other people. I love the idea of strange magical places that exist within this world, but only just. They're difficult for ordinary people like us to see. Thank you, Nick, as ever, for your fantastic ideas. Ev Days suggested 12 angry snakes. In a Milky Way galactic courtroom, this story tracks the statutory revenge of Medusa, a once fair maiden whose body and face were ravaged by non-consensual transmogrification. Wow. Poseidon, I'm not quite sure how that's pronounced. I think it's Poseidon and Athena both face the divine court to justify their heinous acts, but fail. I did not expect a courtroom drama idea from this. This is really good. I can just imagine how you might write this with flashbacks in between each narrative, and then maybe there'd be a big twist at the end when you find out who's lied and who's told the truth. Thank you, Ev Days. That's an amazing idea. I had a couple of humorous ideas as well that came in. Shane Thomas said, the myopic gorgon keeps walking into mirrors and turning himself into stone. His mother has to keep curing him. This has an almost sitcom feel to it and could be amusing and full of family tensions at the same time. Thank you, Shane. Erin McConnell wrote a mini short story about the myopic gorgon that goes, she's called Maddie. Because she can't see, she tends to live a hermit life because reasons. But an amorous optometrist decides to get inventing and made her a pair of glasses that have two modes that he laughingly dubbed trick or treat. It was a hairy journey getting them to Maddie as she was out of coffee and especially vicious that day, but she eventually took the gift with grudging thanks. A week later, she hunted the optometrist down with an offer. If he made her a pair in green to match her outfit, she would get him work with all the gorgons and make him rich. They ended up founding Gorglasses & Co. and can be found in all good outlets. Maddie runs the high fashion line that retails at Versace. The optometrist plans to propose. He's never been happier. Brilliant. Thank you for this fun modern take, Erin. Right, I think it might be time for some more story ideas. And let's see what lies in wait for us in The Socks of Destiny. Here we go. Oh yes, and for those who haven't played before, haven't listened before, Exquisite Corpse takes randomised words to create a sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. So let's just see what we have first in the describing word sock. This is from Robin the Mail Lady. Eccentric. Let's try for a noun. This is from Wendy. Blanket. An eccentric blanket. What is going on here? I have an action entry from Sean, also known online as Blue Wizard Facts. Of course, disappeared into the Bermuda Triangle with. Right, I'm not gonna try and cast ahead. I'm just gonna reach for the next word and see what happens. This is from Robin the Mail Lady again. Tumultuous. It's an interesting word. Let's find a noun to go with it. This is from Mariah. Nothing. That is the word. It is nothing. Oh my goodness. I mean, tumultuous can mean loud, confused, I suppose, excitable, noisy, agitated, maybe. If you referred to a character's personality as being tumultuous, I'd be curious about that, because it's got quite a lot going on. It feels quite physical. But a tumultuous nothing? This is really weird. It reminds me of The Empty Danger, which I used in my first book in my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse. I love phrases like this, so abstract. They seem to be just out of reach of my understanding. So you have to do the reaching. And if I go back to that garden metaphor about tending your imagination, this is like a single flower that's blossomed high up on a bush, and I have to get a ladder to reach and find out. I've no idea what it is yet, but I know somehow it's there. An idea lurks just beyond my vision. It's one of those magical moments when you really don't know what you're going to write until your pen hits the paper. But let's have a go. The stitchers had made it quietly, pulling length after length of thread through the wide piece of fabric, needles catching the lamplight, until the blanket resembled a map. The blanket rider was going to need it. Where she was going, no map had ever captured. She set off on her own, up the metal fire escape. The finished blanket rolled under her arm and goggles on top of her head. From the roof of a skyscraper high above the city lights, she laid out the blanket ready to catch the rays of the rising moon, like a thumbed smudge of chalk in the night sky. It was the only witness to the journey she prepared to make, alone. She sat on the outspread blanket. As she spoke the magic words, an enchanted pattern unravelled its eccentric loops and filigrees of orange and red, stitches curved like flames. The blanket grew restless underneath her weight. Up it hovered, like a mouthless tongue tasting the night air. Far out at sea, off the coast of America, there's an invisible stairway in the air, unseen until an unsuspecting traveller gets caught in it. The air has folded in on itself, creating wrinkles in time and space. This is the Bermuda Triangle, or the part of it that is unmapped and unmappable. What lies at the top of that staircase is anyone's guess. But it is this that our traveller is hunting. With the eccentric blanket underneath her, she tugs free a loose thread and casts it aside. The end of it glints as it falls, swelling into a hard, bright object that eventually splashes into the sea below. This is her anchor, her way back, if it holds. With a tear sliding down her cheek, she narrows her eyes and jumps, gathering the corners of the blanket so it becomes a glider, turning on the breeze. What next? Does she make it in? Will she make it out? And what lies beyond the staircase in the air? Lots of questions to answer. This is always a good start for developing a story. The best way being, I think, turning your attention to whichever details of what you've written so far spark your interest. Focus on those and see where they take you. It might be the eccentric blanket. Who made it? Who are these mysterious stitches? And does the traveller who bought it from them understand what it really does? And who is she? What's her reason for taking this risk? Or you might be intrigued by the tumultuous nothing, the nature of the staircase or portal in the air, and what it leads to. It might be that all of these things intrigue you. You just have to dive in to whatever is grabbing you in the moment. Right, I think it's time for another exquisite corpse, but I think I need some green tea as well. It's been brewing for a little while. So let's give that a pour. Okay. Right. Inspiration awaits. Our first word is a describing word from Wendy. Authentic. Let's try for a noun. This is from Paul Benfield. Lake. An authentic lake. That kind of implies there may be fake lakes. What is a fake lake? A mirror? A mirage? It's almost worth considering the opposite of authentic lake just to see what that holds. Because an exquisite corpse may not be defined just by what it is, but by what it isn't. Anyway, before I start turning this into something more loopy than it really needs to be, let's see what's in the action sock. Okay, this is from Paul Thomas. Was trapped underground with. Okay. I'm not going to think anymore. I'm just going to pull another word and hope for the best. This is from Alessandro Bozzo. Sacrosanct. So kind of holy, sacred. Final word. May it make sense or not. This is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Facts. Balloon vendor. We have a sacrosanct balloon vendor in our midst. Of all the things or people. Oh, this is ridiculously strange. I love it. Wow. We have, well, I'll read it out. I'll read out the whole exquisite corpse first before I start delving into these crazy ideas. We have altogether the authentic lake was trapped underground with the sacrosanct balloon vendor. So starting with the authentic lake, if I may, I could believe that a lake might be considered holy. It's a beautiful thing, a part of nature that holds secrets under its surface, unseen by the casual eye. In fact, a lake is quite a good candidate for that kind of thinking. It could be a symbol of spirituality because much lies beneath the surface and you have to go deep, delve deep to find the truth. Oh, the truth. The word here is authentic, the authentic lake. So maybe we're stumbling into something here. The authentic lake was trapped underground with the sacrosanct balloon vendor. How can a lake be trapped underground? Unless it's a lake that's under a big network of caves. The sacrosanct balloon vendor. I think it's time to try and tackle this phrase. Possibilities that spring to mind. Well, let's have a proper brainstorm about this. A balloon vendor who is a priest in disguise. Why is he selling balloons? Balloons that have spiritual lessons or quotations along the ribbon? A bit like the jokes you used to get on, on ice lolly sticks. Except that they're really serious and deep spiritual lessons. Balloons contain air, which you might think of as chi or ki, which is energy in some Eastern philosophies and spirituality. Taoism, for example. It's a concept that comes into many of the martial arts, for example, karate, and other health-related practices like Tai Chi and Qigong, the art of energy, which I practice, by the way. But this person selling balloons, are they selling balloons or the air that is inside them? That's where my mind is going. It's a very weird concept. Selling breath? Selling their own chi? I'm pretty sure this idea makes no real practical sense, because I think that the idea is that once chi leaves your body, it disperses and reconnects with the rest of the universal energy of which we are all a part. But this is fantasy, and that means we must step beyond what makes normal sense, or even spiritual sense, or what is possible in this world. Selling your own breath is kind of ick to me, so I'm going to say that this balloon vendor captures the breath of a sleeping dragon. Dragon size. What happens when you let the air out of the balloon and expose yourself to a dragon sigh inside? Does it contain a dream? Secrets, esoteric knowledge, images in your mind of mountains passing beneath you as you flap through the sky in his mind's eye, the dragon's mind's eye. That is, to where treasure is hidden, in a cave, in a lake beneath a cave, an authentic lake. I did not expect this to get quite so dream punk quite so soon. I haven't exactly solved the whole exquisite corpse. The authentic lake was trapped underground with the sacrosanct balloon vendor. But it's close, and I don't care. The whole point of this game, this exploration, is to find yourself somewhere else, dreaming up an idea you never would have done if you hadn't played Exquisite Corpse. And on that note, I think it's time for one more. Okay, our first word is from Paul Thomas. Flippant. So, sort of disrespectfully casual. Next word is from Wendy. Wrestler. Okay. Let's see what's going on here with this wrestler. The action is from Paul Benfield. Contemplated hesitantly. Ooh. So while the wrestler has been flippant or disrespectful towards something or someone that he should be taking seriously, he's now hesitating. So I think he's had a change of heart. What about? Let's see. This is from Mariah. Ooh, extraterrestrial. I made a note here because I did a double take at first, thinking this might have been a noun that I'd put into the wrong sock, but no, it was intended as a describing word. So what or who is extraterrestrial? This is from Robin the Mail Lady. Rock slide. Eh? Okay. So the whole exquisite corpse is: the flippant wrestler contemplated hesitantly the extraterrestrial rock slide. So a rock slide is kind of like a landslide, except it's specifically when rock breaks and falls off a mountain, I guess, or possibly, I think if you're excavating minerals or whatever, then you might get a rock slide, since that area will be made of rock. There's nothing else to slide. But an extraterrestrial rock slide. A rock slide happening on another planet? Unless it might be a rock from another planet that has somehow ended up on our turf, and now it's breaking apart because... Oh, give me a moment. The arena was in a remote mountainous region of Schwag, and yes, I'm making up place names now, where the peaks rose in sheer walls around a large pit. It used to be a diamond quarry. It looked as if one of the gods had leaned down from the heavens face first and chomped a big mouthful out of the rocks. Kinso, the wrestler, was ready. 5-armed, 20 foot tall, and dressed in lizard hide, he stood in the wings, flexing his muscles, waiting to see his opponent. 4 times champion of the Cross Galaxy Championship, he was getting bored of these games, and even more bored of the ridiculous rumours that had whipped up in the media in the last few weeks. As he scanned the crowds, he sensed their murmurings, the tension that stopped them from shouting and singing like they usually did. These so-called UFO sightings. There were no aliens unknown to the peoples of this galaxy. There was no threat. It was all just a way to hype up the games, although it had led to a slightly more interesting choice of venue. He would give them that. Claiming that the relative lack of artificial light used in this region meant it was less likely to be targeted by hostile air or spacecraft. The decision to hold the games here meant a smaller audience, since the jagged mountainous ranges that went on for miles all round meant parking was very difficult. The bell clanged. Out came a scorpion woman, her black sting swinging high over her head, painted with a face. Or was that real? At last, a worthy opponent. Kinso was so transfixed by her shiny black armour, her sharp teeth, which she gnashed at the cheering crowd, he didn't notice the first rumble. It seemed like thunder at first, a vibration that trembled the ground beneath his feet. When the crowd started wailing, Kinso glanced up. The colossal rock face on his left-hand side cracked with a boom that shook the whole stadium. The deep, jagged line that sprouted from the bottom up was lit as if lightning struck from the earth up to the sky. As the rocks began to split and tumble away, smashing into the floor of the stadium, bleeping lights like a pair of robot eyes emerged from the growing fissure. All this time, a spacecraft had been waiting for the perfect ambush. UFOs weren't a threat from the skies above. This one had been planted to lie in wait. What better way to capture the best fighters the planets could offer than to break out here, now, while the Cross-Galaxy Championship was being held? And so it was that the flippant wrestler contemplated, hesitantly, the extraterrestrial rock slide. It's always the really unlikely ones that seem to bring out the best. Maybe because we have to reach that little bit further, flex our imagination and climb that ladder to get to it. But which phrase shall I suggest for feedback next time? The eccentric blanket? The tumultuous nothing? I'm tempted by the sacrosanct balloon vendor because it's just so peculiar, but that is a difficult one. I think I'll go with the extraterrestrial rock slide. See what you can do with that. Or, of course, any of the word combinations that have come up on the show. Please get in touch with me at annatizard.com and hit the contact button on the page footer. I'd love to hear from you. Do let me know if you'd like a shout out or if you'd prefer to remain anonymous. And so, I shall leave you to tend the ever-blossoming garden of your imagination. You can let the weeds grow, as long as you write something really weird and scary about it. Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstoryum. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.